The crystal chandeliers of the Morgan Estate ballroom throw shards of light across polished marble, champagne flutes, and glittering jewelry. A string quartet plays something elegant and forgettable, drowned out by laughter and the clinking of glass. In the very center of it all, Dylan Morgan stands on a small stage, holding a gold trophy above his head like a champion athlete. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC says into the microphone, voice booming over the speakers, "let us congratulate Dylan Morgan, winner of the National Collegiate Mechanical Design Gold Award." Applause erupts. Guests rise from their velvet seats. Phones lift into the air, cameras flashing. Dylan basks in it, chin lifted, smile carefully practiced. He tilts the trophy so the engraved letters catch the light. At the edge of the room, half hidden behind a column, Ella Morgan clutches a folded stack of papers to her chest. The pages are smudged with graphite and fine ink lines, dense with circuits and joints and exploded views. Her latest design, her best design. Her fingers press so hard into the paper that her knuckles ache. "Look at our boy." Grandma Martha Morgan pushes herself out of her seat, tottering toward the stage on kitten heels and old pride. Her emerald necklace sparkles, almost blinding. She grabs Dylan's free hand and lifts it, turning to the crowd. "My grandson is the pride of the Morgan family. Next year he will join our research division and take over the family legacy." Grandpa Arthur Morgan rises more slowly, but no less proudly. His silver cane taps once on the marble. "Dylan is the future of Morgan engineering," he declares. "A real man of science, not like certain people in this family, who waste their time tinkering with junk." Laughter ripples through the nearest tables. Ella knows they mean her. They always mean her. She sucks in a breath, forcing it past the lump in her throat. In her pocket, her phone vibrates. She glances down, seeing the unread email banner still pinned on the screen. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, official admission offer. She had opened it this afternoon, heart pounding so hard she could hear her own pulse. She had read the word congratulations 3 times to be sure. Then she had imagined walking up to her grandparents tonight, handing them her phone, hearing them say for the first time that they were proud of her. Now she is not so sure. "Arthur, sit," Grandma Martha says, still gripping Dylan's arm. "You will tire yourself out." Arthur ignores her. His gaze sweeps the ballroom, cold and sharp. "There is a lesson here," he says. "Talent backed by discipline and family support wins. Boys who work hard, who value the Morgan name, deserve everything." He does not look toward Ella, but everyone else does. Ella shrinks closer to the column. Her dress is a faded blue thing from 2 years ago, let out at the seams. She had ironed it twice. It still looks like what it is, a poor girl's best attempt at looking rich. Dylan finally takes the microphone. "Thank you, Grandpa, Grandma," he says. His voice fills the room, smooth and confident. "I would not be here without you. You believed in me, gave me every opportunity, pushed me to be better. I will make you proud in the family lab, I promise." More applause, more flashing lights. "And remember," Grandma Martha adds, leaning into the microphone as if she cannot help herself, "Dylan is our true Morgan heir, not like some people who She lets the sentence dangle, lips curling. Ella's cheeks burn. Behind her, a server carrying a tray of glasses almost bumps into her. "Sorry," he whispers. "It is fine," she murmurs. "It is not fine." She forces herself to breathe, to stay calm. She has survived years of this. Being the girl they brought home from an orphanage after her parents died in a car crash. The girl who was given the Morgan last name, but never the Morgan warmth. The girl who was told to be grateful, to be quiet, to stay out of the way of the real grandchildren. On stage, the MC smiles too widely. "And now, let us cut the cake. 22 years old, our golden boy." The staff roll out a towering cake, white frosting and gold accents, tiny fondant gears around the tiers. A sugar replica of Dylan's trophy sits on top. Ella stares at it and feels something inside her crack. Her design papers slip in her sweaty grip. She steadies them, then squares her shoulders. This is stupid. It is just another night. She will congratulate Dylan, swallow the hurt, and later she will go back to her tiny attic room and read the MIT email again. Alone. She turns to step out from behind the column. Dylan spots her. He steps off the stage, weaving through relatives and guests, trophy still in hand, champagne sloshing in his glass. He moves with practiced ease, as if the entire room belongs to him. He stops directly in front of her. "Well, if it is not our charity case," he says softly, smile never touching his eyes. Several nearby cousins turn to watch. Ella tightens her grip on the papers. Congratulations, she says. Her voice is steady. She promised herself years ago that she would not cry in front of him again. It is a big accomplishment. Of course it is. He glances at the stack in her hands. What are you holding? More doodles. They are not doodles, she says. They are design schematics. For scrap metal, I am sure. Dylan lifts his glass, tips it toward the papers, then accidentally bumps her hand. The pages fly out of her grasp and scatter across the polished floor. A few sheets land near his shiny shoes. Oh no, Dylan says in a tone that says he is not sorry at all. He sets his trophy down on a nearby table, then steps directly onto the top page. The faint outline of a robotic arm disappears under the sole of his expensive shoe. Dylan, stop. Ella says. Her heart punches against her ribs. You are stepping on it. He leans his weight forward, twisting his foot. Paper crinkles. Graphite smears. Oops. Guess it was in the way. A small cluster of relatives has gathered now, drawn like moths to the glow of cruelty. Aunt Linda covers a smirk with her hand. One of the cousins pulls out her phone. Grandma Martha's voice carries over the hum. What is going on over there? Dylan raises his voice dramatically. Nothing, Grandma. Ella just dropped her little hobby project. Grandma Martha huffs as she approaches. Hobby? Again? She looks down at the crumpled papers, then at Ella's clenched jaw. Ella, how many times have we told you? Girls do not need to break their heads over machines. You should be learning to host, to network, to marry someone good. She wastes time and resources. Arthur adds, arriving beside his wife. I saw her in the garage last week, surrounded by broken parts. A disgrace to the Morgan name. Ella feels all the humiliation from the past 15 years rush up at once. Every offhand insult, every cold glance, every time they used the word girl like an insult, and the word adopted like a leash. Her nails bite into her palms. I am not wasting anything, she says quietly. I build things. I fix things. Enough. Arthur cuts her off with a flick of his hand. Dylan is the one with real potential. He has awards, judges, papers. You have dirty hands and broken toys. Laughter again. It buzzes in her ears. Her chest tightens. Her lungs burn. She looks past Dylan at the stage, at the trophy, at the cake shaped like his achievement. Her gaze drops to the smeared lines of her own design, now ruined under his heel. Something in her finally detonates. Ella bends, snatches the papers from under Dylan's shoe, and straightens so fast he flinches. Her eyes shine, but not with tears, with anger. You want to talk about awards and papers? She says. Her voice is no longer small. It cuts through the music, through the chatter, straight to the bone. Fine, let us talk. The nearby conversations fall silent. The quartet falters, notes trailing off. Dylan shifts, uneasy. What are you doing? Ella lifts the wrinkled design sheets so everyone can see the smudged title block in the corner. I received an email today, she says. From MIT, their mechanical engineering department. They offered me a spot in their top lab. A murmur ripples through the room. Grandma Martha blinks. MIT? You? Yes. Ella meets her gaze without flinching. Me. Arthur's brows knit. You must be mistaken. That is a clerical error. Our family connections are with Stanford, not. It is not an error. Ella pulls her phone from her pocket, taps the screen, and holds it up so the bold, official text is visible even from several feet away. They liked my work. They saw my designs. They looked past my last name and my gender, and they still chose me. The silence grows heavier. For the first time in years, Ella sees something like doubt flicker in Arthur's eyes. Dylan laughs, too loud, too sharp. Sure. An email. Anyone can forge an email, Ella. Do not embarrass yourself. She turns her head slowly to him. Says the guy who cannot write a single clean line of code without copying from someone else. His smirk freezes. What did you say? He asks. You heard me. Ella folds the crumpled pages and slides them under her arm. Your award-winning design. The one you keep waving in everyone's faces. It is not yours. Gasps. Arthur's cane taps hard against the floor. Ella, watch your tongue. No, she says. The word tastes like freedom. For once, you are going to listen. She steps forward, closing the distance between herself and Dylan until they are almost nose to nose. 3 months from now, she says, voice low but carrying. The International Mechanical Innovation Challenge will be held in New York. It is the biggest stage any of us can dream of at our age. I am entering. You will too, obviously. Grandpa would never allow his golden boy to sit out. Dylan's jaw tightens. So what? So, Ella says. We make it simple. You and me. Head to head. We submit, we build, we present. Publicly. No family judges. No backroom deals. No last name discounts. Just raw engineering. The ballroom seems to lean in. She takes a breath, so furious and clear that she does not recognize her own voice. If I lose, I will walk away from the Morgan name. No more arguments. No more complaints. I will build my future on my own, and you can have this entire rotten house to yourself. Arthur's eyes narrow. And if Dylan loses? Ella looks directly at him, at Grandma Martha, at the aunts and uncles and cousins who have whispered about her for years. If he loses, she says, then he leaves the Morgan Research Division, and you stop pretending he is the only genius in this family. Dylan's face goes scarlet. You cannot be serious. Why? She asks. Afraid. He laughs, too loud again, trying to cover the tremor in his hands. You are a nobody, a charity case. You think you can beat me? You think your little hobby robots can stand against my work? She lifts her chin. I do not think, Dylan. I know. The words hang there, sharp as glass. Grandma Martha sputters. Ella, you ungrateful child. How dare you talk to your brother this way? He is not my brother, Ella says calmly. He is just a guy who had every advantage handed to him, and still had to cheat. Dylan grabs her wrist. His fingers dig into her skin. Watch it. All the anger, all the humiliation, all the nights spent alone in the garage with grease on her hands and textbooks balanced on her knees surge together. Ella yanks her arm free. 3 months, she says. International Mechanical Innovation Challenge. We both compete. We both sign the terms. And when I win, I want you out of my way. Forever. She does not wait for his answer. She folds her ruined schematics, tucks them under her arm, and walks through the parted crowd toward the grand staircase. Behind her, the orchestra scrambles to start playing again. Voices erupt, frantic. Her grandparents call her name. Her aunt hisses something about scandal. Dylan curses under his breath. Ella puts one hand on the banister, looks back only once, and lets them all see the fire in her eyes. Enjoy the cake, she says. Next time, you will be choking on it. Then she turns and climbs the stairs, leaving the golden boy, the chandelier light, and the entire Morgan ballroom buzzing in her wake. Her war has just begun. Boston air bites in a different way than New York. It is colder, sharper, full of breath that fogs and vanishes. Ella steps out of the bus, backpack slung over one shoulder, a single suitcase rolling behind her. MIT's campus rises ahead, a mix of red brick and modern glass, understated in a way that screams quiet confidence. Her heart thuds. For a second, the old doubt whispers in her mind. You do not belong here. She ignores it and keeps walking. Inside the mechanical engineering building, everything smells faintly of metal, oil, and coffee. Students pass by with laptops, toolboxes, and half-assembled robots. The halls hum with energy. She finds the door marked Robotics and Intelligent Systems Lab. Her palms start to sweat. She knocks. Come in. A deep voice calls. Ella pushes the door open. The lab is bigger than she imagined, lined with workbenches, 3D printers, robotic arms frozen mid-motion, and shelves loaded with components. Monitors display flows of data, simulations, and CAD models. In the center of it all stands a tall man in his mid-40s, graying hair pulled back, safety glasses resting on his head. He turns when she enters. Ella Morgan? He asks. Yes. She grips the strap of her backpack tighter. Professor Beck. He smiles, a little lopsided. Dr. Daniel Beck, yes. We usually skip titles in here unless we are yelling across a conference. He studies her for a moment, eyes sharp but not unkind. You look younger than your application photo. I get that a lot, she says. I promise I am legal. He chuckles. Good. We have enough trouble with safety codes as it is. He gestures her further into the room. Ella's gaze darts from project to project, greedy. Your portfolio was impressive, Beck says. The microsurgical assistant arm prototype, especially. You built that in a garage? Yes. She cannot help the flicker of pride. I did not have access to a clean room, so I improvised with what I had. I saw. Beck picks up a folder from a nearby desk, taps a page. Homemade isolation hood out of a fish tank, a modified vacuum pump, and some very creative filters. Not standard, but it worked. He looks up. I like people who make things work. Relief loosens something in her chest. Thank you. You also picked a fight with your entire family in front of 200 guests last night. if my email from the dean's office is accurate. Beck adds casually. Ella almost chokes. You heard about that? This city runs on gossip and grants. He shrugs. The Morgans are a big name. People talk when one of their own lights a match in the middle of their ballroom. Heat creeps up her neck. I did not think it would spread that fast. Do you regret it? She thinks of Dylan's trophy grinding into her design, of her grandparents calling her a disgrace, of every time she stayed silent and swallowed hurt until it curdled inside her. No, she says simply. I do not. Beck nods once, satisfied. Good. We do not have much use for people who fold when the pressure hits. Sit. She perches on a stool while he walks to a whiteboard crammed with equations and diagrams. This lab, he says, picking up a marker, focuses on intelligent systems for high-risk environments, disaster zones, war zones, deep space, places where it is either too dangerous or too expensive to send humans. We build machines that can decide, learn, adapt. He underlines adapt twice. Not just follow a script. That is what I want. Ella says before she can stop herself. To build something that matters, not just pretty tech demos for cocktail parties. Beck's mouth twitches. Your family does a lot of cocktail party demos? They build good machines, she says cautiously. They also love headlines more than field tests. He caps the marker. For the International Mechanical Innovation Challenge, what are you thinking? Ella had not expected him to ask so directly, so soon. She had stayed up half the night sketching, recalculating, second-guessing. A compact autonomous search and rescue unit, she says. Modular, swarm-capable, something that can map debris in real time, detect heat signatures, stabilize trapped victims long enough for human teams to arrive. Beck's eyes sharpen. Ambitious. Good. Why swarm? One robot fails, you lose one tool, she says. 10 robots working together fail, you have bigger problems, but if they work right, you cover more ground, faster, and build redundancy into the system. He studies her for a long moment. You have a full design? A rough one. She taps the pages under her arm. The version Dylan stomped on is not salvageable, but the files are backed up. Good. Your first task in this lab, Beck says, is to make that design real. You will have team support here, but the core architecture is yours. He leans against the workbench. The Morgan name matters outside these walls. In here, it does not. You understand? Yes, Ella says. The word comes out almost as a sigh of relief. Your last name does not protect you. He continues. But it also does not hold you back. You are here because of what you can do, nothing else. She exhales, shoulders relaxing. I can work with that. Excellent. Let me introduce you to your new favorite people. He calls across the lab. Hey, team. Our new resident troublemaker is here. Heads pop up from behind monitors and machines. A girl with purple hair and grease on her cheek raises a hand in greeting. A tall guy in a hoodie pushes aside a robot chassis and grins. Another student, short and sharp-eyed, shuts a laptop and slides off a stool. This is Maya, Victor, and Luis, Beck says. They will help you with fabrication, control systems, and swearing at the 3D printers when they jam. Important skill. Maya says. Hi, I have been stalking your GitHub. Ella blinks. Maya what? Your repos. Maya says. Your surgical assistant arm is sick. Your documentation could use work, but your code is clean. Victor nods. We placed third at the challenge last year, lost to a German team. It still hurts. We are not losing again, so if you are planning something world-shaking, we are in. Luis grins. I make things not blow up, most of the time. Warmth spreads through Ella's chest. It feels strange, dangerous. Nice to meet you, she says. I am Ella. I make things that are supposed to be stable, and then somehow end up climbing walls. Perfect, Maya says. We love chaos here. Beck claps his hands once. All right, enough socializing. Ella, you have 2 weeks to finalize your design, 3 to get the first prototype walking, 6 to make sure it does not fall on its face in front of international judges. The challenge committees are merciless. So am I. I can handle merciless, Ella says, surprising herself with how true it sounds. I grew up with it. Beck's gaze softens for a heartbeat, then hardens again. Good. Workstation 3 is yours. Let us see what the Morgans threw away. The next weeks blur into a whirl of code, circuits, and controlled exhaustion. Ella lives on coffee and campus food, spending more time in the lab than in her dorm. With Maya's help, She redesigns the chassis to be lighter and more flexible. Victor fine-tunes the pathfinding algorithms, cursing in 3 languages whenever the simulations glitch. Luis rewires the power distribution after the first prototype nearly melts its own battery pack. At 3 in the morning, they dance around the lab when the first unit successfully climbs over a mini obstacle course without toppling. Look at her go, Maya says, filming on her phone. We need a name. Do not name the prototypes. Victor insists. Every time we get attached, something explodes. Luis strokes the chassis affectionately. I vote for Phoenix. Ella smiles, tired but happy. Let us get one working in the real world before we get poetic. Beck watches from the doorway, arms crossed, eyes crinkled at the corners. How does it feel? He asks when the others scatter to class. Like breathing. Ella says without thinking. Like the first time I fixed a broken toaster and made it better than before. He nods. Then keep breathing. Of course, the world outside the lab does not pause. One evening, as she adjusts a sensor mount, her phone vibrates on the workbench. She glances at the screen and sees a name she had hoped to avoid. Grandma Martha. Ella hesitates, then answers. Hello, Ella. Martha says, voice sharp. Your grandfather and I heard you are skipping family dinners now. I am in Boston. Ella says. It is a 4-hour drive. You could make the time if you wanted to. Martha sniffs. Your uncle tells us you are throwing around the Morgan name at that school. Starting trouble. Challenging Dylan in public. I am competing in a public competition. Ella says. That is not starting trouble. That is called having confidence. Arthur's voice cuts in on speaker. You are embarrassing us. He says. We raised you, we fed you, we gave you a roof, and this is how you repay us. By trying to humiliate your own brother on an international stage? He is not my brother, Ella says quietly. And he is the one who humiliated himself. You will withdraw. Arthur says. You will apologize to Dylan, and you will stop this nonsense. You will not drag the Morgan name through the mud. Ella looks up. Across the lab, Maya watches her with a raised brow. Beck pretends to examine a robotic arm but glances over. No, Ella says. Silence crackles over the line. What did you say? Arthur demands. No, she repeats. I will not withdraw. I will compete. If Dylan is as brilliant as you say, he has nothing to fear from me. Martha's breath hitches. You ungrateful girl. We should have left you at that orphanage. The words land like blows. Old hurt flares hot and wild. Beck takes a step closer, expression darkening. Ella forces her throat to work. You did not take me home out of kindness. She says. You took me because my parents left me a trust. Because you needed the money and the tax advantages. Do not rewrite history now. Arthur sputters. You little. I have work to do. Ella says. Her hand trembles, but her voice does not. You will see me at the challenge. Front row, I am sure. Goodbye, Grandpa. Goodbye, Grandma. She hangs up before they can answer, then sets the phone down on the bench with a soft clack. The lab is quiet. You okay? Maya asks. Ella lets out a breath she did not realize she was holding. Not yet. She says. But I will be. Beck nods once, as if she has passed an invisible test. Then get back to it. He says. Those robots will not build themselves. She smiles, shaky but real, and reaches for the soldering iron. 3 months. 3 months to prove that the talent they threw away is more than they ever deserved. The convention center in Manhattan buzzes like a hive. Banners hang from the ceiling, each bearing the logo of a different university or research institute. Cameras maneuver on tracks, ready to catch every moment. International Mechanical Innovation Challenge, Finals. Ella stands backstage, badge clipped to her blazer, heart pounding against her ribs. Beside her, Maya adjusts a sensor on the lead unit of their swarm, fingers nimble. Victor checks his laptop, scrolling through the diagnostics. Luis mutters under his breath as he recalibrates a joint. You are breathing too fast. Maya says to Ella without looking up. You are going to pass out before we even roll her out. I am fine. Ella lies. Her palms are slick. Totally fine. Liar. Victor says. It is okay. Fear keeps you sharp. Just do not let it control your hands. On the big screen visible through a gap in the curtains, another team finishes their presentation. Their robot, a sleek warehouse automation unit, earns polite applause. In 30 seconds, we are up. Luis says. Ella wipes her hands on her pants and forces herself to look toward the front rows of the auditorium. She sees them instantly. Her grandparents sit in the center of the VIP section, dressed in their finest, faces stiff. Around them cluster uncles, aunts, and cousins. Some look curious, others look annoyed. A few, like Aunt Linda, look hungry, eyes glittering with the thrill of impending drama. And to their right, in a navy suit and a smug expression, sits Dylan. He does not look nervous. He leans back in his chair, one arm draped lazily over the back of the seat next to him. His hair is perfectly styled. His shoes gleam. He feels her gaze and turns his head. For a long second, their eyes lock. He tilts his chin and mouths, "You are going down." She mouths back, "We will see." Next up, the MC announces, representing Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the Robotics and Intelligent Systems Lab, with their Project Phoenix Swarm Autonomous Search and Rescue System. The crowd applauds, some more loudly than others. The lights shift. "Showtime," Maya says. They will out the platform holding 6 compact robots, each the size of a small dog. Their chassis glint under the spotlights, angular yet agile. Antenna arrays and sensor clusters bristle like metallic whiskers. Ella steps to the center of the stage, microphone attached to her ear, script memorized. Beck stands in the shadows just off stage, arms crossed. She takes a breath. "Good afternoon." She begins. Her voice echoes through the cavernous hall. "My name is Ella Morgan, and this is the Phoenix Swarm." She gestures to the robots. In the first 72 hours after a building collapse, earthquake, or explosion, search and rescue decisions determine whether victims live or die. Human teams are fast, but they are also limited by fatigue, danger, and the unknown. Our system does not replace them. It amplifies them. She taps a tablet. The robots wake, lights flickering to life. The crowd leans forward. Each unit in the Phoenix Swarm is a fully autonomous agent. She continues. They share data, adapt to obstacles, and coordinate in real time. If one fails, the rest adjust. Their job is simple: get in, map everything, find survivors, and keep them alive until humans arrive. On the stage, a simulated rubble field waits, concrete blocks, twisted rebar, narrow gaps. Ella gives the command. The robots move. They do not roll. They do not crawl clumsily. They unfold segmented legs, climb over debris, squeeze through narrow spaces, and fan out with uncanny grace. As they move, a 3-dimensional map builds itself on the screen above, color-coded layers showing structural integrity, heat sources, and pockets of breathable air. Murmurs ripple through the audience. Some judges lean forward, whispering. Ella's voice steadies as she explains the details: the sensor fusion, the learning algorithms, the modular design that allows quick reconfiguration in the field. When one robot encounters a dead end, it does not simply stop. It backs up, signals the others, and updates the shared map so no one else wastes time. Victor watches the diagnostics scrolling on his laptop, lips moving silently. Come on, he mutters. Luis grips the edge of the console. Please do not faceplant. Please do not faceplant. Maya grins. Look at them. They are beautiful. The demonstration culminates with one unit locating a hidden heat source, a dummy victim outfitted with sensors buried beneath a slab. The robot deploys a micro airbag to stabilize the debris, then extends a small arm with a patch that attaches to the dummy, transmitting basic vitals to the main console. On the screen, a green status panel flashes, victim stabilized. Applause breaks out, louder now, less polite, and more genuinely impressed. Ella smiles, the tremor in her chest loosening. Phoenix is not a single machine, she says. It is a system built on one belief: in a disaster, every second and every life matters. We cannot stop earthquakes or explosions, but we can build tools that make surviving them a little more likely. She bows her head slightly. Thank you. The applause swells. As they wheel the robots off stage, Beck claps once, sharply. You did well, he says. No major glitches. The judges were watching very closely. Ella glances at the front row. Her grandparents sit stiffly, hands clasped. Their faces are unreadable. Dylan looks annoyed. Who is next? Victor asks. Beck's mouth thins. Columbia University. Project lead, Dylan Morgan. Ella's stomach flips. They watch from the wings as Dylan strides onto the stage, posture confident. Behind him, a squat, boxy machine sits on a platform, thick wheels and a mechanical arm attached to its front. Good afternoon, Dylan says smoothly. I am Dylan Morgan, and this is Atlas, an intelligent load-bearing and logistics unit designed for industrial and disaster environments. He launches into a well-rehearsed explanation. His slides look polished. His graphs are pretty. His machine, on the surface, seems capable. Atlas rolls forward, picks up crates, moves them around, stacks them. It even navigates a few basic obstacles. The judges nod. It is solid. Maya admits grudgingly. Not brilliant, but solid. Luis squints at the motion. Something is off with the load distribution. Victor frowns at his tablet, where he has pulled up a cached copy of a paper he has read before. Something else is off. He murmurs. The first sign of trouble comes when Atlas tries to grip a heavier crate. The arm clamps down, lifts, and then jerks violently. The robot wobbles, compensates too slowly, and the crate crashes to the floor, missing a judge's foot by inches. Gasps. Dylan's smile falters. Just a minor calibration issue. He says quickly. Atlas is still in development. One of the judges raises a hand. Mr. Morgan, we have some concerns about your submission, she says. Her accent is German, precise. Particularly about the originality of your core design. Dylan stiffens. Excuse me. The judge taps her tablet. 3 years ago, at the Berlin Robotics Symposium, a Professor Klaus Richter presented a prototype with an extremely similar architecture and algorithmic approach. Your documentation shares entire paragraphs with his published paper. That is impossible, Dylan says. My work is my own. Is it? Another judge, this one from Japan, holds up a printed document. We ran a standard plagiarism check on all submissions at the finalist level. Your report flagged at a 90% similarity in critical sections, including identical diagrams. The screen behind Dylan flickers, switching from his slides to a side-by-side comparison. On the left, his documentation. On the right, a scanned page from Professor Richter's paper. The resemblance is undeniable. Dylan's face drains of color. The murmurs in the crowd turn sharp, ugly. Ella feels her heart hammering. She had suspected. She had found fragments of code months ago that matched earlier projects too closely. She had never had proof like this. Mr. Morgan. The German judge continues. Can you explain these similarities? Dylan opens his mouth and closes it again. My team and we studied existing work, of course, but studied is one thing. The Japanese judge says. Copying is another. A new voice cuts through the tension. If I may, I can provide context. Beck steps onto the stage, ID clearly visible. The judges nod, they know him by reputation. Dr. Beck. The MC says, surprised. Do you have information relevant to this matter? Yes. Beck says. He looks at Dylan, then at the front row, where Arthur Morgan's jaw works furiously. My lab received an anonymous tip months ago about similarities between Mr. Morgan's previous work and published research. At the time, the evidence was incomplete. For this competition, however, your own algorithm flagged his report. He holds up a thick folder. These are side-by-side comparisons of Mr. Morgan's current project and Professor Richter's original designs. As a scientist and as a mentor, I cannot ignore it. Dylan glares at him. You set me up. No. Beck says calmly. You set yourself up when you chose to plagiarize. Arthur surges to his feet. How dare you accuse my grandson in public like this? Do you know who we are? The German judge looks at him coolly. We know who you are, Mr. Morgan. We also know who Professor Richter is. And we know what academic integrity means. Grandma Martha clutches her pearls. There must be some mistake. Dylan worked so hard. He is a genius. She is the real genius. Maya mutters in the wings, jerking her chin toward Ella. Ella says nothing. Her throat is tight. Her hands shake, not with fear now, but with something like justice. The MC clears his throat uncomfortable. The judging committee will deliberate. There is no need. The Japanese judge says. Plagiarism is grounds for immediate disqualification. Mr. Morgan's team is hereby removed from the competition. His institution will be notified. So will Professor Richter. The auditorium explodes in noise. Some gasp. Some whisper. A few clap, quickly silenced. Dylan staggers back from the microphone. You cannot do this. He says. My family, my grandfather sponsors. Your last name does not excuse misconduct. The German judge says. In fact, it makes it more important that we respond clearly. Security moves closer, discreet but firm. Ella watches as Dylan's gaze sweeps the audience, searching for an ally. His eyes land on Arthur and Martha. The old man's face is a mask of shock and fury, but beneath it, Ella sees something else. Fear. As Dylan is escorted off stage, his trophy dreams shattered, Ella feels no triumph. Only a strange, quiet completion. The awards ceremony that follows is almost an afterthought. The German team places third. A French team places second. When they call Phoenix Swarm as the first place winner, Ella walks onto the stage, applause roaring in her ears, lights burning her eyes. She holds the new trophy sleek, modern, etched with her name, and feels its weight. It feels nothing like Dylan's borrowed glory. It feels earned. In the front row, her grandparents sit frozen. They do not clap. Beck claps loudly enough for 10 people. The Morgan estate looks different when Ella returns. Maybe it is the knowledge that she is no longer the girl in the faded blue dress, hiding behind columns. Maybe it is the way the security guard at the gate recognizes her from the news and opens the gate with a respectful nod. Maybe it is the silence. The hallways that once rang with laughter and clinking glass are quiet. A few staff move quickly, heads down. There are no guests, no music, no glittering crowd. A maid leads Ella to the sitting room, her eyes wide. They have been waiting all morning. She whispers. Of course they have. Arthur and Martha sit on the expensive sofa they imported from Italy, their legs close together, hands clasped. They look smaller today, older. Ella. Martha says, rising halfway before sinking back down. Her voice wobbles. You came. I said I would. Ella replies. She stands near the door, arms loosely at her sides, coat still on. Arthur clears his throat. We saw the competition. He says. On the broadcast. Everyone saw it. Ella says. Martha wrings her fingers. The judges they humiliated Dylan. That man, Beck, he exposed the truth. Ella cuts in. Dylan plagiarized. The judges did their job. Arthur flinches. He grips his cane harder. We have spoken with the university. He says. They are considering disciplinary action. They will expel him. Ella says. You know that. Martha's eyes fill with tears. He is our grandson. She protests. He just lost his way. He was under pressure. You cannot understand what that is like. Ella laughs, a short, humorless sound. No, I have spent my entire life under your pressure, just a different kind. Arthur shifts uncomfortably. We did what we thought was best for the family. He says. If we overlooked you at times, it was only because we had limited resources. Limited? Ella glances around the room, at the art on the walls, the crystal on the shelves. You poured everything into Dylan. Tutors, labs, internships. And when I asked to attend a robotics camp, you told me it was a waste of money. Martha looks guilty. We did not realize your hobby was real talent. It is not a hobby. Ella says softly. It is my life. Arthur sighs. For the first time, he looks truly tired. Ella. He says. We were wrong. The words hang in the air, surprising everyone, including him. We were blinded by tradition. He continues slowly. By expectations. We thought the family needed a strong male heir in engineering. We thought you would marry well and be happy that way. I did not want to be anyone's accessory. Ella says. I wanted to build something of my own. And you have. Arthur says. The world saw what you did at the challenge. The media will not stop calling. Investors too. The Morgan name is attached to you whether we like it or not. Is that what this is about? Ella asks. Your reputation? Martha shakes her head vehemently. No, we care about you. Truly, we were proud. Say that again, Ella says, without looking at the trophy. Martha's gaze darts to the small table where the International Challenge trophy sits, newly placed there. Arthur follows her eyes, then forces himself to look away. We are proud of you, he says, with or without the trophy. Something in his voice sounds like truth, or at least like trying. Ella swallows. You invited me here, she says. What do you want? Martha reaches for a folder on the coffee table and holds it out with trembling hands. We want you to come back, she says, to take your rightful place in the family business. We will put you in charge of the research division, the labs, the patents, the funding, all of it. Ella does not take the folder. Arthur pushes it closer. You have ideas. We have infrastructure. Together, we could make more cocktail party demos? She asks. Slap the Morgan logo on my work and pretend you nurtured me all along? Martha flinches. We will correct the story, she says. We will tell everyone you have always been our pride. We will rewrite history? Ella's voice sharpens. Erase the years you called me a disgrace. The times you told me girls did not belong in the lab. The day you said you should have left me at the orphanage. Martha's face goes white. I did not mean. You did, Ella says. You meant it enough to say it when you thought I would cave. I did not then. I will not now. Arthur rubs his forehead. Ella, the media is already tearing us apart for how we treated you. He says. If you cut ties completely, if you speak out. I have no intention of publicly humiliating you, she says. You are doing a fine job of that yourself. He winces. But I will not pretend we are something we are not. She adds. I am not your success story. I am not your PR bandage. Silence stretches. Martha's eyes glisten. You are our granddaughter, she says weakly. We took you in when you had no one. You took me in because my parents left me money. Ella finally reaches into her bag and pulls out her own folder. She places it on the table beside theirs. What is that? Arthur asks warily. The trust, Ella says. The one you have been managing for me all these years. I had a lawyer pull the original documents. Turns out my parents did not just leave me money. They left me a controlling stake in a small, but promising manufacturing company. You have been using its profits to plug holes in the Morgan balance sheets. Arthur's face darkens. We invested that money wisely, he says. For your sake. For your legacy. She corrects. My parents wanted me to have enough to stand on my own. I am honoring that. Martha's hands shake. What are you saying? Ella opens the folder and slides a set of signed papers toward them. I am transferring my legal name back to Ella Hart, she says. My birth name. The company my parents left me will be the cornerstone of my own enterprise. Arthur stares at the signatures. You cannot do this. I can, she says. And I already have. The courts processed it yesterday. You will be nothing without the Morgan name. Martha blurts. Ella smiles, small and sad. You are wrong, she says. I was always more than your name. You were just too busy staring at Dylan to see it. She straightens. I came today as a courtesy, to tell you that I am stepping away. I will not sit on your board. I will not work in your labs. I will not fix the mess you made of your reputation. I am building something else, something better. Arthur's shoulders sag. You are really leaving us, he whispers. I left the moment you told me my dreams were a waste of time, she says. This is just the paperwork catching up. Martha's tears spill over. Ella, please, she sobs. We are old. We do not have much time to make things right. You have enough time to stop repeating the same mistakes. Ella replies softly. Maybe the next girl in this family will not have to fight as hard as I did. She turns toward the door. Ella. Arthur calls. His voice cracks. She pauses. I am sorry, he says. The words sound like they hurt him. For what it is worth, I am sorry. She closes her eyes. For a flicker of a second, she remembers the one day he praised her, when she fixed his antique clock at age 10. The warmth in his eyes, quickly smothered when Dylan walked into the room. It is worth something, she says. Just not enough to erase everything else. She opens the door and steps out into the hall, her footsteps echoing. Behind her, the Morgan estate feels less like a home, and more like what it has always been. A museum of old ideas, slowly crumbling. The office space Ella leases is nothing like the Morgan Labs. It is an old warehouse in Brooklyn. High ceilings, exposed brick, cracked windows that let in too much light in the morning and too much cold at night. The floor is scuffed, the paint peeling. She loves it instantly. This is a dump, Maya says, spinning in a rusty swivel chair. I adore it. We can fix the wiring, Luis adds, poking at an outlet with a tester. This place will not pass inspection as is. That is why we got it cheap. Victor says. We will make it pass. A newly installed sign on the door downstairs reads Phoenix Dynamics in bold letters. The name makes Ella's chest ache with fierce pride. She walks through the vast, empty space, mentally placing workbenches, server racks, and test rigs. We will keep the front open, she says. Lab in the back. Meeting room in the corner, glass walls. I want investors to see what we build, not just what we pitch. Maya nods. We will need a good coffee machine, non-negotiable. Luis laughs. Add that to the capital expenditure spreadsheet. Already did. Victor says, waving his tablet. Along with redoing the bathrooms. I refuse to spend my genius years in a place with tiles from the 70s. Ella's phone buzzes with a new email. Another investor asking for a meeting. Another article link praising Phoenix Swarm and speculating about her next move. She remembers the last line of the latest profile. The engineering world is watching to see whether Ella Morgan's triumph was a one-time explosion or the start of a new era. No pressure. She glances out the window. Across the river, Manhattan's skyline glitters. Somewhere in that mess of glass and steel, the Morgan Towers stand, their logo still shining. Not for long, she thinks. Over the next months, Phoenix Dynamics transforms. Electricians rip out old wiring and replace it. New lights go up. Workbenches arrive. 3D printers hum in the corner. The air fills with the smell of fresh paint and hot plastic. Ella hires carefully. A robotics engineer who left a big firm because they were tired of designing toys. A former firefighter who consults on real-world disaster zones. A software architect who builds simulations that make entire city blocks crumble on screen, so Phoenix's prototypes can learn where to go. They work ridiculous hours. They argue, laugh, and occasionally fall asleep on beanbags. The first major contract comes from an international search and rescue organization that saw the challenge broadcast. They want a fleet of Phoenix units, tailored to different terrains, earthquake zones, hurricanes, urban fires. The signing ceremony is small, just a few people around a narrow conference table, but when the ink dries, Ella feels the weight of it. "This is it," she says to Maya afterward. "We are officially in business." "We have been in business since you signed the lease," Maya replies. "This just means we can pay ourselves more than instant noodle money." The second major development arrives in the form of a news alert. Morgan Engineering faces recalls after safety failures in industrial robot line. Ella reads the article, eyebrows climbing. A series of incidents involving one of the Morgan Company's flagship robots has forced a recall. Regulators are investigating. The stock price dips. She shows the article to Victor. He whistles. "Ouch. Bad sensors," Louise says, scanning. "Cheap replacements. They cut corners. They always did." Ella says softly, "I just never had the proof." Her phone rings. She checks the screen. Uncle Robert. She hesitates, then answers. "Hello, Ella," Robert says. His voice sounds more tired than she remembers. "I hope you are well." "I am," she says carefully. "How are you?" He laughs once, bitter. "Drowning. The recall is killing us. Lawsuits, angry partners, regulators. Your grandparents are not leaving the house. Your father is." He stops himself. "He is not my father," Ella says gently. "He is my uncle, and he made his own choices." Robert sighs. "You always were precise. What do you need?" she asks. "Help," he says. The word sounds like it pains him. "We rushed that line, cut costs where we should not have. We need someone to assess the damage, propose fixes, maybe a rebrand." If the public saw that Morgan Engineering was partnering with the girl who just saved disaster zones. "You mean the girl you all dismissed as a waste of space?" she says. He does not argue. "We could structure it as an investment." He adds quickly. "You inject capital into the faltering divisions. We give you equity, board seats. You get a ready-made industrial base. We get a lifeline." Ella walks to the window. Brooklyn's mess sprawls below. Her own logo glows faintly on the glass. "How much equity?" she asks. 30% for a 50% capital injection. He says. "It would be generous." She smiles faintly. "You are not in a position to be generous." Silence. Then, reluctantly. "Fine. 20% capital for 40% equity. That is better," she says. "But not enough." "What do you mean, not enough?" He snaps, old arrogance resurfacing. "If I am going to fix your mess," she says, "I want control over the divisions I touch. Full control. And I want them under my brand, not yours." "You would strip our name from our own labs?" he demands. "The ones I rebuild, yes," she says. "You keep the parts you can still run. I will take the ones that deserve better." "That is insane," he says. "Your grandparents would never agree." "Then do not call me again," she says. "You will find capital elsewhere." She moves the phone away from her ear. "Wait," Robert says quickly. "Wait. I will talk to them." "Do that," she says. "And send me the full reports. Every safety failure, every lawsuit. No hiding numbers. A beat." "You drive a hard bargain, Ella." "That is what happens when you treat people like bargaining chips for years," she replies. "They learn." When she hangs up, Maya arches a brow. "So, they want me to save them," Ella says. "I might, on my terms." "Savage," Maya says approvingly. "I love it." As negotiations drag on, as lawyers send drafts back and forth, as the Morgan elders swallow their pride in painful increments, Phoenix Dynamics grows. Their rescue units are deployed in a real earthquake zone for the first time. Footage of the small robots crawling through rubble, relaying the locations of survivors, goes viral. A little boy in a hospital bed names his favorite unit, Spark, and insists on hugging it before surgery. Ella watches the video with wet eyes. This she says to Beck over a video call, is why we do it. Not for the awards? He teases. They are nice. She allows. But they do not hold hands. When the Morgan deal finally closes, it is on her terms. Phoenix Dynamics acquires 3 failing Morgan subsidiaries, one specializing in industrial sensors, one in logistics automation, and one in assistive robotics. The Morgan name is removed from their signs. Phoenix's logo goes up in its place. Some call it betrayal, others call it destiny. Ella calls it justice. On the day the last sign is changed, she stands in front of her new facility, the air smelling of fresh paint and possibility. Luis stands beside her, hands in his pockets. Your grandparents will see this, he says. I know, she says. What do you think they will feel? Regret, she says. And maybe a pride, quietly, where no one can see. She takes a deep breath and walks inside. There is work to do. The awards gala is held at a glass tower in Midtown, the kind of place where art installations hang from ceilings and waiters move like ghosts with trays of champagne. Ella stands on the balcony outside the ballroom, the city sprawling beneath her in a tangle of lights. She wears a black suit with clean lines, no frills. Her hair is pinned up, more for practicality than fashion. Inside, the International Science and Technology Council is honoring the year's standout innovators. Her name is on the program. Stop brooding, Maya says, joining her with 2 flutes of sparkling water. You look like you are about to jump. I am just thinking, Ella says, accepting a glass. About how weird all this is. World-changing genius gets award. Maya says. So shocking. Ella laughs softly. I used to sneak into the Morgan labs at night just to touch the equipment. She says. I thought if they saw me, they would finally take me seriously. Instead, they yelled about security breaches. And now you own half their old hardware. Maya points out. Pretty sure that counts as taking you seriously. The ballroom doors open. A woman in a silver dress steps out, smiling. Miss Hart? She asks. Ella straightens. Yes. They are ready for you. The woman says. You are up after the climate modeling team. Okay, Ella says. Her heart rate ticks up. As she follows the woman inside, she glimpses familiar faces scattered among the attendees. Beck stands near the front, talking with a group of researchers, his eyes crinkling when he spots her. He gives a little salute. Her grandparents are there too. Arthur and Martha sit a few rows back from the stage, not in the front, not in the shadows. Their posture is stiff. Their clothes are elegant, but more subdued than at Dylan's birthday years ago. They see her. Martha's hand flutters in a small wave. Arthur inclines his head. Ella nods once, no more, and keeps walking. The ceremony passes in a blur of speeches and applause. Climate scientists, medical pioneers, an engineer who designed low-cost prosthetics for children. Then the host smiles at the crowd. Our next honoree is, in many ways, the face of a new generation of engineering. He says. Someone who proved that talent can bloom even in the harshest soil, and that innovation can be as much about who we help as about what we build. Images flash on the screen, Phoenix units navigating rubble, children hugging robots, headlines about disaster survivors. Please welcome, the host says, this year's global young technology leader, Ella Hart, founder and CEO of Phoenix Dynamics. Applause swells, wave after wave. Ella walks onto the stage, the lights bright, the trophy waiting on a pedestal. It is elegant, a twisted ring of metal and glass that catches the light like a captured star. She takes it in her hands. It is surprisingly heavy. The host steps back. The microphone is hers. She does not speak immediately. She looks out at the crowd, the rows of faces, the cameras broadcasting this moment to people she will never meet. She sees the Morgan elders, smaller than she remembered. She sees Beck, proud. She sees Maya near the front, phone raised discreetly. She sees herself, 10 years old and greasy-fingered, alone in a garage, trying to fix something broken, because it was the only way she knew to make the world make sense. When she finally speaks, her voice is calm. When I was a kid, she says, I would take apart anything I could get my hands on. Radios, toasters, old printers. If it had screws, I wanted to see what was inside. Soft laughter ripples through the room. Most of the time, adults around me saw that as mischief. She continues. As a phase, as something to be discouraged. I heard the same phrases many of you probably did. Girls do not need to learn this. Leave it to the boys. Focus on being pretty, being polite, being quiet. Her gaze flicks briefly to her grandparents. Martha's eyes glisten. For a long time, I believed them. Ella says. Not enough to stop building in secret, but enough to think that what I loved was somehow wrong. Selfish. Embarrassing. She lifts the trophy slightly. Standing here tonight does not erase those years. It does not magically turn every insult into a compliment or every closed door into a lesson. But it does prove one thing very clearly. She smiles, small and fierce. Talent does not care about your gender, she says, or your last name, or whether the people around you recognize it. She lets that sink in. Talent is stubborn, she continues. It keeps whispering to you even when everyone else tells you to shut up. It keeps pulling you toward the tools, the books, the code editors, the labs, whatever your version of a garage is. It does not care if anyone claps. It just wants to exist. She looks down at the trophy, then back up. When disaster strikes somewhere in the world now, she says, little machines we built in a renovated warehouse in Brooklyn crawl through rubble and find people who would otherwise die. That is not because I am special. It is because a group of stubborn people refused to shut up when the world told them someone like them does not belong in engineering. She takes a breath. So if you are watching this from a place where no one believes in you, she says, voice warming. If you are the kid taking apart radios in secret, or the student told to pick an easier major, or the employee talked over in every meeting, this is for you. She lifts the trophy higher. Your talent is real, she says. Your work matters. And you do not need permission from anyone to build something that changes the world. Applause explodes, loud enough to make the stage vibrate. When the ceremony ends, the crowd spills into the reception area, voices rising, cameras flashing again. Ella slips away to the balcony, craving air. The city stretches out before her, a glittering circuit board. Footsteps sound behind her. She turns. Arthur and Martha stand in the doorway, uncertain. No entourage. No performance. May we? Arthur asks. She nods, once. They step out into the cool night. You spoke well, Arthur says after a moment. Better than any of us ever have. Thank you, she says. The words are polite, neutral. Martha twists her clutch in her hands. You were right, she blurts. About everything. We pushed you away. We clipped your wings. We tried to make you small. Ella says nothing. Tears spill over. Seeing you up there tonight, Martha whispers, voice shaking. I realized something. You are what our family could have been if we had not been so afraid. Afraid of what? Ella asks softly. Change, Arthur says. The admission seems to cost him. Of daughters who build machines instead of families. Of heirs who do not fit the pictures in our heads. We thought we were protecting our legacy. We were strangling it. He looks at her, eyes wet. You saved us anyway, he says. Even when you did not have to. Those divisions you took over, you kept people employed. You improved the robots. You prevented more accidents. You turned our failures into something better. I did it for the people who rely on that tech, Ella says. Not for the Morgan name. I know, he says. That is what makes it worth more. Martha reaches out, hesitates. May I? She asks. Ella considers. Then, slowly, she nods. Martha touches her arm lightly, as if afraid she will burn. We do not deserve forgiveness, she says. But if one day you have room in your heart to visit or to have dinner, we would like to try again, as a something better than what we were. Ella looks at them, really looks. She does not see the giants who towered over her childhood, dispensing judgment from gilded chairs. She sees two old people, frightened and humbled, trying and failing and trying again. Maybe this is what growth looks like, she thinks. Not dramatic apologies shouted in ballrooms, but quiet admissions on a balcony. We will see, she says. It is not a yes. It is not a no. It is something more honest. They accept it. Arthur straightens his shoulders. Whatever happens, he says. You have made us see. That alone is a gift. Martha squeezes her arm once more and then steps back. We will go, she says, voice thick. Congratulations, Ella. Thank you, she replies. They leave her alone again. She turns back to the city. Somewhere down there, Phoenix units are being charged for their next deployment. Somewhere, kids are building their own first robots, inspired by a woman on a stage holding a ring of light. Her phone buzzes. Maya, they are playing your speech on the big screen inside. You are trending. Again. Get back here before someone steals your dessert. Ella smiles. She tucks the trophy under one arm, slides the phone into her pocket, and steps back toward the noise, the light, the future she built one stubborn, brilliant piece at a time. Once, she was the overlooked girl in the corner of a ballroom, clutching a design no one wanted to see. Now, the whole world is watching. and she is just getting started.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.